Our government's printing money like crazy and then doing what with it? Pouring it down a hole. They do spend your money on things like a robot that folds laundry, shrimp running on treadmills, and in my rich neighborhood, free bike helmets. It's as if politicians live in a carnival game, trying to grab as much of your money as they can. Ethanol, farm subsidies, foreign aid. At the rate politicians spend, America will soon become like this country. People riot when politicians spend so much that there's almost nothing left.
When there's no more money, there's just no more money.
She won't convince the union. This is what democracy looks like. The unions elect people who give them money. And if there's any left, these lobbyists want it.
Funding for housing counselors.
The American Forest Foundation.
Solar energy.
It's relentless.
But politicians who say no get booed. So most don't cut much of anything.
We've taken a scalpel to the discretionary budget rather than a machete.
But we need to take a machete to the budget. Or maybe one of these, because if we don't make really big cuts, you could lose your pension.
If they will do it to us, they will do it to you.
But America can't avoid going broke. Some politicians have shown us how to do it.
We let 17,000 workers go.
If you can't pay their salaries, what are you going to do?
So what's our future going to be? More bloated government? Cuts to the budget so draconian you need a chainsaw to make them? Or smart cuts that bring prosperity? We have choices to make. So, printing all this extra money is bad. What are the other options? Well, the government can raise your taxes or cut its spending. Tough choices. Politicians are supposed to make these choices. So what did President Obama do? He appointed a commission.
I'm asking them to produce clear recommendations on how to cover the costs of all federal programs by 2015.
They recommended $1 trillion in tax increases and $3 trillion in spending cuts. But the president didn't take those recommendations. That bothered even the liberal media.
The total debt is $7.2 trillion on top of the $14 trillion we already have. How can you say that we're living within our means?
I'm not suggesting that we don't have to do more.
In your fiscal commission, you had a majority consensus to do all this. It's now been shelved.
The notion that it's been shelved, I think, is incorrect.
What was the point of the fiscal commission?
It still provides a framework for a conversation.
Then,
Our debt as a share of the economy is already too high. But look at where it's going.
a Republican budget chairman actually came out with a serious plan, whereupon the president responded with his own plan.
Today I'm proposing a more balanced approach.
I don't blame the vice president for falling asleep during his boss's speech. It was more of the same. Obama said he'd eliminate waste and lower the cost of health care, but he proposed no specific cuts, and he said he'd raise taxes on the rich.
Millionaires and billionaires. That's who needs to pay less taxes?
Maybe not, but even if the president took every penny that millionaires and billionaires make, it still wouldn't be enough to cover the deficit.
The gap between revenue and spending is so big that no level of revenue could cover that gap.
The problem is spending. It's been increasing so fast, revenue can't keep up. Hence the talk about cuts.
We've taken a scalpel to the discretionary budget rather than a machete.
A scalpel? But a little scalpel won't make cuts big enough to keep us from falling into bankruptcy. We need something like this. We need to make bigger cuts or people will stop lending us money and we'll be as broke as Greece. But I understand why politicians are reluctant to make big cuts.
If a member of Congress has a troop of lobbyists coming through his or her office every single day, it's still up to him or her to say no. And that's really hard for them. They love to say yes. They absolutely love to say yes. You want something? I want to give it to you because I need your vote. So they are going to have to learn to say no a lot. They're going to need to practice in the mirror.
Practice hard because there are so many advocates with so much need. This woman's upset about a governor's cuts.
I'm a nurse. I care about people. He is going to make my patients sicker because he will not give me a voice to advocate for them.
She even says budget cuts are racist.
This is despicable.
It's relentless. And people talk about the big lobbyists, you know, the Boeing or Intel or whatever else, and they're here. But they're outnumbered 20 to 1 by the the advocates of small, specific spending programs.
Congressman Jeff Flake and Scott Garrett are a rare breed in Congress. Actual budget cutters who resist the lobbyists' pleas. Please.
They make such a good case for patients who are going to lose health care. You must be cruel to resist this stuff.
That's the argument that they always make. There'll always be somebody coming into your office asking for more money.
Teachers teaching teachers.
Avoid having budget cuts in housing.
How do you say no?
I appreciate your issue, and it is a good cause that you're coming to talk to us about, but unfortunately, that's not the role of the federal government.
Restore funding to the National Writing Project.
We're here to say stop the cuts.
The fact that there are any cuts at all is due to the recent uprising by voters. They elected dozens of new representatives who promised to shrink government. Finally, congressmen like Garrett and Flake have some allies.
For years, you two must have felt lonely around here.
Well, we hung out together.
Yeah, it's been a bit, but there are more of us now.